We're taking a look at what's making the headlines on the front pages this morning. We begin with our sister publication This Day, the newspaper of records. It's a big story this morning. NNPC demands deployment of its crude monitoring team to the Dangote Refinery. Aliko Dangote agrees to sell fuel in local currency as negotiations progresses. Meanwhile, 44% of 650,000 barrels per day can satisfy Nigeria's total flows demand, says DILVP. Also discloses 98% of petroleum product importers in Nigeria are not patronizing the refinery. That photo there, just beside that big story, is President Tinubu at Buckingham Palace meeting with King Charles III yesterday. Owa Obokun of Ijesha, or by Gabriel Aromolara, dies at 87. Another photo there, solidarity visit to Borno flood victims. And just above the nameplate of This Day this morning, Tinubu upbeat as economy as Nigeria records 6.95 trillion naira trade surplus in Q2. Meanwhile, another firm set to drag the federal government to international arbitration over alleged breach of due process. I think that firm is it's basically a legal tangle involving Nigeria's cargo and crude oil tracking notification scheme. That's the Donington Nigeria Limited, along with its foreign partners, threatening to drag Nigeria into arbitration. They're accusing the government of circumventing due process. Obviously, this comes on the heels of other costly international disputes where Nigerian assets abroad have been seized. We're just coming out of that drama with the Chinese firm involving presidential debts and Nigeria's real estate in Liverpool, India. We're seeing another firm looking to drag the federal government into some sort of legal tussle again. And it's for the same reason, just for a breach of due process, not for the due process.
Does it make sense to you? I was going to say, I hope the people leading our nation it beats you. They say once beating, twice shy. So how will this thing repeat itself again? Is it a joke? Are they not thinking? Are they not watching? Don't they know what to do? Should they be relieved of their responsibilities? But on the fuel issue, now Dangote says it's interesting. Dangote says we'll have 2,900 tankers ready to put it on the road. There are no tankers on the road, and yet marketers are not buying our refineries, particularly the aviation and the aviation and diesel.
Yes,
Dangote has reduced it. Now this speaks volume. Dangote, they are not buying it because they say it's cheap. It's the price is down. It's affecting their business. And one is wondering, because if it's been reduced from 1,000 to 1,000 to 900, we Dangote is trying to sell it at, which augurs well for the people who are buying, you and I. I mean, if we use this, particularly manufacturers, why are the petroleum marketers not buying? They have actually written to Tinubu, and then Dangote says that on the buyback, which you have in the points, the NNPC Dangote crude sale product buyback deal, they're saying they are now in negotiations, and Dangote says it's going to lose, but because of the fact that there are no foreign exchange in the country, so he has agreed to buy in naira. To
sell in local currency.
Yeah, and NPC says they will send people there to monitor because that is a buyback.
I was going, that's an interesting angle there. NNPC saying, look, they're looking to have some permanent team stationed at the refinery.
Is the office there.
Yeah, so does that mean basically are they just saying, look, we don't trust you enough to run this operation without us sort of breathing down your neck? Now, this is obviously sort of a juxtaposition because you have NNPC hasn't been able to even get any of their refineries working or actually get it started. We've had so many deadlines, so many dates. Exactly. It's just sort of an irony.
All right, let's look at Punch. Let's go to Punch. Punch has its headline, Edo governorship poll. Opposition fears violence as PDP shows peace accord. INEC distributes final batch of PVCs. On the top mast, what I just talked about earlier ago, Dangote crude sale product buyback deal. Tinubu governors, Obasanjo Mon as Owa Oboku, joins his ancestors. This story on violence and PDP showing peace accord. Then there's another story down there. PDP governors lose as NWC hands Wike reverse control. And recapitalization manufacturers, SME struggle as banks take over capital market. Now, aside this PDP shunning this peace accord, the only party that shunned it, I mean, Azike yesterday, Emmanuel was talking about the fact, why even the peace accord in the first place? Elections are not supposed to be war. And then PDP is saying no. But now it's interesting that the NWC of PDP hands over reverse control to a minister, not the governor of the state, which is what it is, that the governors of their various states are the leaders of the parties. Now, the NEC, National Executive Committee meeting, was supposed to hold afterwards, but it was now postponed. They were to overturn this. It was the Damagun-led NWC that handed Wike. It's just crass.
You know, this is what we're talking about yesterday, how the political tension, the political quagmire in the river states translating to Edo State, and now may potentially affect the People's Democratic Party's performance in that state for the governorship election coming up next Saturday, September 21.
Yep.
They've said, look, when we're not signing this accord, I mean, they already, Obaseki, the governor, already said it, we're not signing, so it wasn't a surprise. They're saying this because they say they are alleging that the police deployed to the state are acting as the armed guards of the APC, and so they don't think they should be involved in this signing. And like we said, we don't even understand why there always has to be a peace accord signed. And there's always, if you notice, Indy, one party that does not want to sign the peace accord, and it's always for one reason or the other. But I think the most important part here is just basically how in this country we always sort of get sidetracked. This is an election to basically put someone on the seat of the governorship in Edo State that's supposed to just make the state better in terms of economy, in terms of social amenities. But you have all these talks, instead of having talks on policies, on what the candidate has to offer the people, we're having talks of police being the armed people of the APC. We're having talks of Wike-led party. We're having talks of people doing anti-party activities. We're just having talks, so basically just sidetracking from the main issues that we're supposed to be focusing on. But let's take a look at another paper this morning. What paper should we take a look at? We can have a look at the New Telegraph this morning. The New Telegraph has this a big story on its front page. Many still trapped. That's on the Maiduguri flood. It says many people still trapped on rooftops and over 400,000 households displaced. That's from NEMA. The agency still compiling the death toll. I think now we have 30 people dead from this flood.
148,000
displaced people. Also at the bottom there on the front page of New Telegraph, from the APC Chairman's Forum, we are aware of sufferings, plans to meet the president, APC leadership over hardship. We've heard this over and over again.
The question you ask, why is it taking them this long? And are they really aware?
Are they really aware? That's the truth. Bandits kill 5 policemen and 3 soldiers in fresh Zamfara attack. And also just at the top there, the federal government moves to cut cost of airline operations, basically signing that Cape Town Convention Pact by the federal government. Obviously, this deal is championed by the Aviation Minister, Festus Keyamo. Sort of opens doors for international aircraft lessors to provide planes to Nigerian airlines on what is called a dry lease. Basically, airlines get the aircraft and they have to handle the crew and maintenance themselves. And the big win here is expected that it will slash costs in airfare within 1 year. That's what the minister is saying. We'll look forward to it.
Let's look at the Guardian. The Guardian newspaper, Nigeria. Edoguba fragile peace deal. We've talked about that. PSC bars police officers from investigating land marital matters. Protesters demand release of detained PDP members in Edo. Flooding, Alao Dam repairs cost 762 million naira in 12 years. 26 million before collapse. The question then will be, was it done well? Hackers intensify attacks on educational institutions for ransom. Then this story here, CAP to Tinubu, you've lost touch with reality. The other day, the madams wrote a copious letter to the president telling him this is the way things are. And today we see here CAP saying to Tinubu, you've lost touch with reality.
You know that the story just at the bottom, the leading photo on the front page of the Guardian Nigeria, is quite interesting. Beyond fame and fortune is talking about why sports stars battle depression. So it's basically explaining that there's depression among active athletes is sort of also prevalent because of failure to meet performance goals, which results in sort of self-doubt, low self-esteem, lack of adequate financial support, excessive media pressure, just the list goes on. It's an in-depth analysis from the Guardian Nigeria.
I remember the story of Oruma there, that he invested heavily and lost the money. And I think that threw him off balance. I don't know what has become of him now. Anyway, let's go into some other Tribune.
A big headline. We'll just take the headlines on Tribune and move to regional papers. But this headline is just very sad to read. 259 killed and over 1 million affected by floods in 29 states in the country. That's coming from NEMA. Also, UN Humanitarian Agency allocates $6 billion for Borno, Adamawa, Yobe. In Edo State, APC, 16 others signed peace accord. PDP maintains stance, refuses to sign. Southwest states arrive at plan of action to tackle food shortage. That's on page 19 of the Nigerian Tribune. At the top there, the Central Bank of Nigeria directs service providers to commence POS transaction tracking, and Nigeria signs partnership agreements with the UK and gets 589 billion naira support. That's
and then look at that story, the aviation workers to shut down airports. September 18, reject 50% IGR deductions. All right, let's go regional now. All right, the Citizen, GNU Bella Bill, GNU won't sink, Zile, unhappiness over the contentious Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to sign into law today. Will affect the government of national unity, but not end it. DA Federal Chair Helen Zile says, despite meetings behind closed doors, we believe in good faith. That's the Citizen.
Yeah, I think experts in South Africa are basically saying that they're acknowledging that the bill is progressive, it has progressive elements, but basically just stops short of a glowing endorsement. There are other analysts that are raising issues, calling for revisions, and they say this is particularly telling, but she's highlighting that bill's handling of school governing bodies, homeschooling, and criminalization of parents needs overhauling. Let's take a look at the daily graphic. Moving over to Ghana. Ghana, focusing on election, it says trust EC for credible register. The EC is basically the Electoral Commission.
Yep.
There's been a squabble between the Ghana's Electoral Commission and the opposition National Democratic Congress over basically the voters register for the upcoming election. I think it's December 7th.
The question is always, why is the opposition always at loggerheads with the electoral bodies of the countries?
I think it's a thing of the opposition being out of power and the incumbent basically having more power or more control over some commissions or over some bodies.
So the need for
they
them
just
to
always
be
have to
independent.
speak out if they exactly. That's where that comes in. The need for those sort of commissions to be independent, and so we don't always have all this friction. But now they're coming out and they're saying, look, you can trust us to be credible. The argument is that the ongoing voter exhibition exercise, which the Electoral Commission claims is already a form of auditing, renders the call for an independent audit unnecessary. So they don't want to be audited. Basically, that's the squabble going on in Ghana ahead of the elections. That's the daily graphic.
All right, let's go fully international now. The Guardian, Starmer tells Putin, you started this war, you can end it in time. PN's remarks on way to meet Biden for talks on Ukraine use of weapons. Israel raid on Gaza school kills 6, UNRWA 8 workers. The thing about the strikes is that innocent people keep being killed. Israel keeps committing these strikes and nothing seems to be happening while the peace talk is still dragging. PM to ban junk food adds in public health drive. The story is that there's this problem of obesity, waistlines growing. So the PM is saying no more food ads before 9. 9 is probably the time children should go to school. And then online total ban. But we'll see how that plays out.
I think that Ukraine fire long-range weapons. There's also reports that Biden may let Ukraine fire long-range weapons. I think they're going to, it's expected to be sort of at the top of the discussions today when he meets Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer. However, Britain, although Keir Starmer is telling Russia, look, you started this, you can stop anytime, they sort of already signaled that it wants to let Ukraine use long-range missiles, but it wants something sort of a permission from Biden to show that unified strategy. Let's take a look at another paper.
Of course, Putin is against it, saying that the wars will take a different course. Go on.
The Independent this morning. Let's take a look at the leading photo on the front page of the Independent. It's a story that's quite interesting. On the front page there, it says, looks like a perfect world. Billionaire makes history with private spacewalk. That's tech billionaire Jared Isaacman, who becomes the first person to take part in a privately funded spacewalk. The SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission has basically been taking humans further into space than anyone who has been in more than 50 years. Indy, is this something you might be interested in? Going to space, being a spacewalker. But under that, you have Starmer taking on the NHS. It says no new cash without reforms. The Prime Minister basically hitting out at agency workers that are paid £5,000 per shift. Warning unions is saying we must fix the plumbing before we turn on the taps. That's a very, very important thing to say. Fixing the plumbing before turning on the taps. Yep. This also comes, obviously, as they unveiled the 9 p.m. watershed on junk food TV ad. Starmer has been hitting he has been busy. He has a lot of work cut out for him on so many fronts.
This is because of
and also focusing a lot on the health sector, which is very, very important.
The promises they made too. All right, we'll look at Daily Telegraph. It says, Lamy, UK missiles are vital to stop Putin. It says a winter of defeat looms for Kiev without storm shadows, says Foreign Secretary. The idea is that America might eventually, like we've been discussing, give room for, because Zelensky is saying that it's showing the world and Biden that, look, we're doing much, and now is the time to really give us this latitude so we can use this weapon, and if not crush Putin, at least cause him to come to the negotiating table to stop the war. Low-skilled migrants cost public £150,000 each. All right, that's for the New Telegraph, the Daily Telegraph, rather.
All right, that's all the time we have here on Daybreak. Thanks for staying with us.